Have you ever wondered what it feels like to walk through a house that remembers every secret its walls have ever held? A house where the air itself hums with the memories of those who once lived and perhaps those who never truly left. Tonight, you trudge barefoot along the uneven floorboards of Godric's Hollow, the moonlight spilling through cracked shutters like silver knives slicing through the dark, and immediately you feel it, the weight of Lily Potter's legacy pressing invisibly against your shoulders, a lineage tinged with both light and a lingering, inexplicable shadow. You can almost smell the faint, lingering traces of peppermint and burnt parchment, reminders of a childhood hurriedly interrupted, a normal life stolen by the inexorable pull of destiny. Somewhere deep in the attic, a clock ticks backwards, or maybe it's just your imagination. Either way, you shiver as a sudden gust of wind lifts strands of hair into your face, and you realize that curiosity has consequences you probably won't survive if you aren't careful. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. I'm really curious, from which part of the world are you watching this video? Write your country in the comments. Let's see how far this little story has traveled. The fireplace is cold tonight, though you swear you see shadows dance across the hearth. Shadows that remind you of a mother's unyielding courage and the subtle, almost imperceptible curses that threaded through her blood. Somewhere in this very room, Lily's old wand rests hidden beneath a tattered quilt, waiting for someone bold or foolish enough to awaken its dormant magic. And as you trace your fingers along the cracked wallpaper, the scent of rose water and candle smoke seems to mingle with something darker, something ancient, making your pulse quicken in that peculiar, uncomfortable mix of fear and fascination that only true magical history can conjure. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The air feels heavier as you descend the narrow staircase, each step creaking in protest, as though the house itself is warning you to turn back. But curiosity claws at your senses with an insistence you cannot ignore. The hall stretches before you, lined with portraits whose eyes seem to follow every movement, whispering secrets you are only just beginning to comprehend. Lily Potter's childhood was not merely ordinary, it was marked by glimpses of power and moments of quiet defiance that the wizarding world never documented. You catch the faint scent of old ink and wax, and for a fleeting second, the room feels alive, pulsing with unspoken words and laughter trapped in amber years ago. Somewhere behind a closed door, the soft sound of water dripping echoes like a heartbeat, reminding you that even in places of safety, traces of danger linger, subtle yet undeniable. Your fingertips brush against the banister, worn smooth by generations, and you imagine Lily's hand there long before you, perhaps holding a small, mischievous charm or a simple piece of parchment inscribed with a note she never sent. A sudden chill lifts your hair at the nape of your neck, the kind that makes your stomach knot with both fear and anticipation, and you realize that every corner of this house is steeped in memory that sometimes bleeds into reality. You hear whispers, almost like wind teasing your ears, though the night is perfectly still, and a question rises unbidden. How much of what you see is history, and how much is the house choosing to show you? The windows rattle gently, a sound like a soft sigh, as if the building itself remembers the tragedies and triumphs entwined in Lily's life, the moments of courage that would one day echo through the wizarding world, and the secrets best left unspoken. Somewhere beneath the floorboards, perhaps in a shadowed nook, a charm hums faintly, its melody sweet yet tinged with warning, nudging you toward truths that are both fascinating and dangerous. You breathe slowly, trying to steady your racing heart, knowing that the next steps you take will carry you deeper into the untold stories, into the whispers that only those brave or foolish enough to follow the bloodline will ever hear. As your hand brushes against the rough edge of a tall, forgotten cabinet tucked into the corner of the dimly lit study, a faint green glow pulses from within, almost imperceptible at first, like the heartbeat of something long asleep and yet undeniably alive, calling to you with a magnetic insistence that makes your chest tighten. You bend closer, squinting through dust motes that hang in the stagnant air, and there it is, a small vial, capped with a stopper etched in delicate runes, the liquid inside shimmering like captured moonlight distilled into emerald fire. The scent that wafts from it is peculiar, a mixture of damp earth, candle wax, and something sweetly metallic that makes your tongue itch in anticipation. You know instinctively that this is no ordinary potion. The very essence of it seems bound to the bloodline you've been tracing, infused with the echoes of Lily Potter's untold magic, a legacy too potent to ignore, yet dangerous enough to demand caution. As you lift it from its resting place, your fingertips brushing the faintly vibrating glass, memories of whispered warnings slip into your mind. Some knowledge is meant to remain sealed, and yet the allure of understanding, of glimpsing the true contours of a life both tragic and heroic, overpowers hesitation. You uncork the vial, and the light inside flares briefly, dancing across the walls in intricate patterns, casting long, twisting shadows that remind you of the delicate balance between power and peril, light and curse. A bead of sweat slides down your temple as the scent intensifies, rich and heady, conjuring images of Lily as a young witch, practicing charms in secret, laughing softly when a spell misfired, tears glinting in the moonlight when she discovered that her extraordinary potential carried a weight no ordinary child should bear. You remember, almost absent-mindedly, a historical fact whispered in the corridors of magical scholarship, that in rare cases a potion could carry the magical imprint of its creator, an intimate echo of intent, emotion, and destiny. Could this vial hold the very essence of Lily's power, her triumphs and her fears distilled into liquid form? Your mind teeters between awe and dread, and you wonder how much of the blood curse's potency has seeped into these enchanted walls, silently shaping events, guiding choices, punishing the unworthy, and rewarding the brave. The green glow shifts, reflecting in your eyes, and for a fleeting moment, the boundaries between past and present blur. You see Lily's reflection superimposed upon your own, her gaze steady, piercing, and knowing, as if she is judging whether you are fit to confront the truths she could never speak aloud. There is a quirky rumor among magical historians that she once enchanted a vial in this very study so that it would warn its holder of danger by changing color according to intent, an anecdote many dismiss as whimsical exaggeration. But now, as the light flickers and dances in eerie rhythm, you are not so sure. You hesitate, considering the scholarly debate about inherited magical curses and the ethical ramifications of manipulating them. Does observing the potion's effects constitute interference, or is it merely the natural consequence of curiosity? Still, your fingers tighten around the vial, and you sense the weight of responsibility pressing down. Every choice you make from this point could reverberate through the hidden threads of the Potter lineage, perhaps unraveling mysteries better left undisturbed, or perhaps illuminating truths that will forever alter your perception of courage, sacrifice, and the intricate interplay of blood and magic. Drawing a slow, steadying breath, you uncork the vial fully, letting the ethereal glow flood the room, painting everything in the hue of ancient secrets and unspoken promises, knowing that whatever unfolds next will mark the point of no return, the moment where you cross from observer to participant in a story woven with shadow, light, and the indelible imprint of Lily Potter's cursed blood. You step back from the glowing vial, the emerald light fading to a soft, eerie shimmer, and as your eyes adjust, the room seems to bend and ripple around you, as though the very fabric of the house is responding to your presence, drawing you into a scene that feels both familiar and impossibly distant. Shadows lengthen unnaturally, and then, with a faint pop and the smell of ozone, figures emerge, translucent yet sharply defined, dueling with wands that cast pale streaks of light across the walls. It is as if time itself has fractured, allowing you to witness the duels of Lily Potter in her youth. Duels that never made it into school records or whispered legends, fought in hallways long since sealed and forgotten. You notice the subtle precision in her movements, the flicker of humor in her eyes when a spell grazes her opponent harmlessly, the way she instinctively protects those weaker than herself even in the midst of combat, and you can't help but marvel at the dexterity and courage so deeply woven into her bloodline. Historical records affirm that duel practices among young witches and wizards were common, yet rarely this elaborate, suggesting either exceptional skill or a hidden tutelage from someone unseen, and you wonder which is true. A quirk of the scene captures your attention. A small mischievous pygmy puff drifts between dueling wands, occasionally puffing a cloud of glittering smoke that momentarily blinds one combatant, an oddity perhaps ignored by most chroniclers, yet delightfully absurd, as if the universe itself insisted on sprinkling humor into high-stakes drama. You realize that the duel is not merely a display of skill. It is a manifestation of conflict carried over from ancient rivalries. Rivalries born not just of personal grudges, but of enchanted bloodlines and secret oaths, which has prompted endless debate among magical scholars about the extent to which inherited traits influence magical ability versus environment and training. Your breath catches as one spectral figure lunges toward Lily, and instinctively she twirls, countering with a spell that ignites the air in brief green sparks, illuminating the room in a kaleidoscope of tension, fear, and exhilaration. The shadows around you quiver, reacting as if alive, whispering incantations and snatches of conversation, and you note the curious blend of fear and exhilaration that courses through your own veins, a mixture that seems to echo the very essence of Lily's hidden battles. In the distance, faint sounds of the village at night filter through the cracked windows, the hoot of an owl, the murmur of wind through skeletal trees, and for a moment, the ordinary world intrudes upon this magical tableau, reminding you that while the past can be witnessed, it remains entwined with present reality, and the line between observer and participant blurs. You wonder, briefly, whether any spell you cast here would have lasting effects or simply dissolve like smoke, a question scholars have long debated. Can interacting with spectral echoes of magic alter the past? Or is it merely a reflection, a cautionary tale bound to repeat itself until lessons are truly learned? With a steadying inhale, you watch Lily deflect another spell, and in that instant, you feel the pulse of her courage, her cleverness, and her undying commitment to protect those she loves, all threaded with the cursed and luminous essence of her blood, a legacy that has silently shaped countless lives and now, inexplicably, shapes your own. A sudden hush falls over the hall, as though the very walls are holding their breath, and you feel a presence, subtle but undeniable, brushing against the edges of your awareness, a warmth that contrasts sharply with the cold, flickering shadows of the midnight duel still lingering in your mind. Turning slowly, you see a figure stepping from the moonlight that streams through the cracked window, robes whispering across the floor, face obscured by a hood, and yet you feel an uncanny familiarity, a sense that you have seen these eyes before in fleeting dreams or half-remembered memories, though their identity remains frustratingly just out of reach. The figure's wand is held loosely, not in threat but in quiet authority, and when they speak, their voice is calm, carrying a resonance that seems to echo not just through the room, but through time itself, threading through your thoughts like a delicate, invisible loom, weaving knowledge into understanding. The blood you follow is potent, they murmur, and the curse that shadows it is older than the history you thought you knew. You must learn to move with it, not against it, lest it consume what you seek to protect. You notice a subtle accent, a musical cadence that evokes long-forgotten corners of magical Europe, and your heart quickens at the implication. This is not merely a teacher, but a guardian of secrets, someone whose guidance is essential if you are to navigate the treacherous currents of inherited power and hidden legacy. Historical records hint at mentors of extraordinary discretion existing at the margins of magical society, entrusted with shaping prodigious witches and wizards while remaining unseen, an idea that has sparked long debate among scholars about the ethical implications of secret instruction. Do such interventions preserve life, or do they manipulate destiny according to their own designs? The figure's hand rises slightly, tracing an arc in the air, and a small sphere of light appears, illuminating fragments of old parchment scattered across the floor, revealing sketches of spells intertwined with bloodline sigils, intricate diagrams showing potential outcomes of choices made under duress, and hints of enchantments thought lost to time. A quirky detail catches your attention. A tiny enchanted mouse scurries along the edge of a rug, carrying a miniature quill, pausing occasionally as if transcribing the invisible dialogue between mentor and student. A humorous, almost absurd interlude that lightens the tension without diminishing the gravity of the lesson. You realize that every element of this guidance is layered with both instruction and subtle challenge. The mentor's presence is simultaneously comforting and unsettling, their intentions deliberately enigmatic, forcing you to question whether the path you follow is your own or guided by forces unseen. You reach for the vial of green liquid still pulsing softly in your hand, and the mentor's gaze sharpens, acknowledging without speaking that the potion is a key, but one that must be approached with both respect and fear, for it embodies centuries of magic, triumph, and tragedy entwined in a single fragile vessel. The air seems to shimmer with latent energy, the boundaries between past and present thinning as whispers of Lily Potter's decisions echo through the room, each choice reverberating against the walls like ripples across a pond, inviting you to step more fully into her world while simultaneously cautioning that the bloodline's gifts and curses are inseparable, interwoven threads that shape not only her story but now, increasingly, your own. You inhale slowly, letting the weight of the moment settle, noting the faint scent of rosewood and old parchment that clings to the mentor's robes, a sensory tether connecting you to the lineage you trace and to the lessons yet to come. And as they gesture toward a concealed door at the far end of the hall, your pulse quickens in anticipation. Behind that door lies a chamber of forbidden knowledge, a library of whispers and secrets, and the path forward demands courage, discernment, and a willingness to confront truths that may challenge everything you thought you knew about magic, legacy, and the subtle, persistent power of blood. In the soft, oscillating glow of the mentor's sphere, you feel a mixture of awe and apprehension, understanding that the choices you make here will reverberate beyond this night, beyond the walls of Godric's Hollow, shaping not just the story of Lily Potter's cursed blood, but the very contours of your own unfolding journey. A delicate interplay of fate, skill, and the hidden threads of guidance that stretch across time, inviting you to step fully into a narrative that is as dangerous as it is illuminating, as mysterious as it is instructive, and as human as it is magical. You follow the mentor through the narrow hallway, the floorboards groaning softly underfoot, and as the door at the end swings open with a whispering creak, a surge of cool, musty air greets you, carrying the scent of ancient parchment, polished wood, and a faint undercurrent of something that smells like iron and rain. A smell that seems almost alive, almost sentient, as if the library itself is exhaling in anticipation of your arrival. The room is vast beyond expectation, a cathedral of knowledge, with towering shelves that stretch into shadowed heights, filled with books that seem to pulse faintly with their own inner luminescence, murmuring spells and secrets almost audibly if you listen closely. A chandelier overhead flickers into life as if sensing your presence, each candle suspended by invisible threads, casting soft, quivering light that dances across the spines of countless volumes, revealing titles that range from practical magical instruction to esoteric treatises on curses and inherited enchantments. You take a tentative step forward, feeling the weight of centuries pressing upon your shoulders, each book a repository of memory, triumph, and failure, a reminder that the magical world is shaped as much by whispers and lost knowledge as by feats chronicled in formal histories. The mentor gestures with a subtle sweep of the hand, and a small section of the shelves slides aside to reveal a hidden alcove where books float gently in midair, flipping their own pages as though eager to display secrets to a worthy observer. A historical note comes to mind, something often glossed over in standard magical education, that many prominent witches and wizards kept personal libraries with enchantments that allowed their knowledge to persist beyond death, a practice debated endlessly in magical circles for its ethical implications. Is it preservation, or is it a way to manipulate the future through curated knowledge? One of the floating books drifts toward you, its pages opening to reveal an intricate diagram of a spell interwoven with bloodline sigils and marginal notes penned in a delicate, looping hand that seems familiar, almost like lilies, though the mentor shakes their head subtly, indicating that these are the layers added by generations of ancestors, their intentions encoded in glyphs and charms designed to protect, instruct, and warn. You notice a quirky detail. A small, enchanted quill hovers above a desk, writing notes in invisible ink that reveal themselves only under moonlight. A whimsical, almost playful reminder that magic can delight even in its most serious applications. The room seems to breathe with latent power, the air vibrating with the hum of invisible currents, and you begin to sense that every book, every scroll, every floating parchment is alive with possibility, offering lessons, temptations, and risks in equal measure. The mentor steps closer, voice lowered to a murmur that somehow resonates in your very bones. Here, knowledge is not free. It tests the heart and the mind, demanding focus, courage, and discernment. Take only what you are prepared to understand, or risk being lost in the echoes of what should never have been known. You extend your hand toward a particularly ancient tome, its cover leather-wrapped and etched with sigils that pulse faintly, and as your fingers brush its surface, a shiver races up your spine, as if the book is appraising you, measuring the weight of your curiosity against the gravity of the secrets it holds. Within moments, you realize the library is more than a repository. It is a labyrinth of consequence, where each choice to open a book, read a line, or follow a spell can ripple across time, intertwining with the bloodline you trace, revealing hidden curses, dormant powers, and forgotten oaths. You watch in fascination as pages turn on their own, sketches of spells intertwining with diagrams of ancestral lineage, illustrating how power, fear, and loyalty are inseparable in the tapestry of magical inheritance, prompting you to ponder an ongoing scholarly debate, whether blood or experience shapes magical potential more profoundly, a question that has fueled arguments from Hogwarts classrooms to clandestine archives across the wizarding world. The mentor's gaze remains steady, almost imperceptibly guiding you toward volumes marked with subtle glyphs, suggesting that the next lesson lies in understanding the interrelation of history, intent, and inherited magic, the delicate balance between curiosity and hubris. Every scent, every flicker of light, every murmuring spell seems to pull you deeper, compelling you to confront the intricate web of power and consequence, as if the library itself is both teacher and sentinel, eager to illuminate but ready to punish. And you feel the pulse of the bloodline, its hidden rhythms now entwined with your own heartbeat, reminding you that knowledge, like magic, carries weight, responsibility, and the potential to change everything if you dare to grasp it fully. You step out of the labyrinthine quiet of the forbidden library and onto a winding stone staircase that spirals upward, each step echoing faintly like the whispers of forgotten spells. And as you reach the top, the distant murmur of voices drifts through the air, drawing you toward a grand chamber illuminated by hundreds of enchanted chandeliers, their candles floating and casting a kaleidoscope of soft, golden light that dances across the polished marble floor. The sound of laughter is warm and inviting, yet beneath it lies a subtle tension, a delicate undercurrent of rivalry and ambition that prickles your skin and makes your pulse quicken. Tonight is the Masked Ball, an event whispered about in the corridors of wizarding society, where the elite gather under the guise of anonymity, where masks conceal not only faces, but intentions, secrets, and the occasional forbidden spell. The air carries a mixture of perfumes, lavender, rose, and something more earthy, musk-laden, like the memory of centuries of enchantments, and the faint scent of burning amber from floating braziers gives the room a soft, golden haze that is almost hypnotic. You trudge cautiously across the threshold, feeling both exposed and invisible beneath the protective cloak of your curiosity, and immediately, eyes, or at least the shadows of eyes behind masks, flick toward you, sizing you up, judging your presence, as though the very air you breathe is a currency of influence in this clandestine court. The dancing couples sway to music played by enchanted instruments floating just above the floor, instruments that seem to play themselves, harmonizing perfectly, yet responding subtly to the mood and movement of the attendees. The melody is both captivating and disorienting, a spellbinding rhythm that makes your steps hesitant yet compelled, the notes seeming to brush against the hair at the nape of your neck and trace the contours of your awareness, sharpening your senses even as they lull you into a sense of deceptive calm. You observe a man in a silver mask leaning too close to a woman in deep violet, their whispered conversation a mix of intrigue and veiled threat, and you recall that among the wizarding elite, duels of words could be as deadly as duels of wands, reputation and secrets often wielded as skillfully as any hex or curse. Historical accounts note that masked gatherings of this nature were sometimes used to settle disputes discreetly or to broker alliances, yet they were equally notorious for clandestine sabotage, mischief, and the occasional forbidden experiment conducted in corners where no ordinary eyes could see, a tradition that sparks both fascination and debate among magical historians. Does concealment encourage freedom, or does it embolden malice? A quirky detail draws your attention. A small, hovering fire sprite drifts through the air, darting between attendees, occasionally landing on a shoulder and sending a gentle spark of light across the sequins of a dress or the edge of a cloak, as if the room itself is alive with whimsy, ensuring that even amidst plotting and manipulation, magic delights in subtle mischief. As you weave through the crowd, careful to observe without drawing attention, your gaze lands on a masked figure at the far end of the hall, leaning against a balcony railing and watching the gathering with an intensity that makes your skin tingle, their eyes flickering with recognition, or perhaps memory, and you feel a shiver of anticipation, understanding instinctively that they know far more than they reveal, a presence that might either guide or challenge you depending on the choices you make tonight. The whisper of silk, the tap of finely polished boots, the faint shimmer of protective charms tucked beneath cloaks. All these sensory threads intertwine into a tapestry of intrigue that makes the masked ball feel less like a celebration and more like a living, breathing organism, pulsating with ambition, secrecy, and latent magic. You overhear snippets of conversation, rumors of hidden family oaths, the mention of ancient duels, the name of a cursed artifact long thought lost, and each fragment nudges your understanding further into the depths of Lily Potter's bloodline, revealing how influence, power, and legacy intertwine with history and magic in ways that are subtle, insidious, and often invisible. A debate surfaces in your mind, one discussed in hushed tones among scholars of magical sociology. To what extent do the actions of a masked elite shape the course of history, and how much is simply the illusion of control layered atop centuries of inherited influence? The room seems alive with the tension between appearance and reality as wizards and witches glide past, some laughing, some plotting, some observing with hawk-like precision, and you realize that for every charm, every spell, every whispered secret, there is an invisible ledger of consequences waiting to be tallied. You notice a masked woman in emerald adjusting a bracelet that glows faintly with protective enchantments, and a man in black subtly tracing a finger along the hem of his cloak, leaving behind a trail of shimmer that hints at a concealed spell ready to spring at a moment's notice. And the contrast between visible and invisible intentions is dizzying. You step closer to the balcony, feeling the cool breeze that slips through high, arched windows, carrying the scent of night-blooming flowers from the gardens below. And in that moment, the music swells, laughter rings, and you understand that the masked ball is both a lesson and a labyrinth, an intricate social spell where observation, intuition, and timing are as vital as any wand technique, and misstep or misjudgment can result in embarrassment, danger, or worse, entanglement in secrets that were never yours to bear. Somewhere near the center of the hall, a masked couple pauses mid-dance, exchanging words that could alter allegiances or resurrect old feuds, and you catch the shimmer of a charm meant to detect betrayal, noting the subtle interplay of trust, deception, and inherited knowledge, all resonating through the architecture of lineage, magic, and the very blood that courses through those gathered. The pulse of the night is palpable. The combination of music, light, scent, and shadow weaves an intoxicating spell of awareness, demanding that you move carefully, think clearly, and trust instincts honed through observation and intuition. You find yourself drifting toward the masked figure on the balcony, the one whose gaze feels predatory yet protective, and every step carries the weight of curiosity and consequence. The knowledge that tonight, revelations about Lily Potter's bloodline and the subtle legacies of her courage, cleverness, and inherited burdens will unfold, not gently, but with the force of long-hidden truths seeking recognition. The golden light from the chandeliers casts dancing patterns across the walls, highlighting glimpses of sigils etched invisibly into the floor, traces of spells long cast, protective charms designed to guide or constrain the unwary. And in this dizzying combination of beauty, danger, and history, you feel the true complexity of the wizarding elite, the interplay of inherited magic, personal ambition, and the delicate balance of secrecy and revelation. Every flicker of shadow, every subtle glance, every whispered secret contributes to a living tapestry of tension and knowledge, guiding you toward choices that could illuminate the hidden histories of the Potter bloodline, or entangle you irreversibly in intrigues not meant for outsiders. You breathe slowly, noting the faint scent of aged paper, amber, and ozone lingering in the air, a sensory reminder that magic is both tangible and intangible, comforting and dangerous, and that your role tonight is both observer and participant, woven inexorably into the rhythm of legacy, power, and the subtle, invisible currents of influence that ripple through every corner of the chamber. The music swells again, and as the masked figures glide past, the whispers of past decisions, of courage, cunning, and sacrifice echo faintly in your mind, reminding you that legacy is never passive, and that the choices you witness, the alliances you observe, and the secrets you uncover tonight are threads in the intricate, living tapestry of Lily Potter's cursed blood, a lineage that will continue to shape the course of magic and memory in ways both startling and profound, provided you have the courage to watch, listen, and understand fully. The masked figure on the balcony steps closer as you approach, their movements deliberate and unhurried, and for the first time tonight, you notice the faint shimmer of enchantments woven into their robes, threads of protective magic glinting like distant stars across deep midnight blue fabric. They incline their heads slightly, and though their face remains concealed, their voice reaches you, low and steady, carrying an authority that resonates beyond the physical room, threading into the very air around you. What you seek lies not in objects, nor in whispered rumors, they say, but in promises made long ago, in bonds of blood and choice that cannot be broken lightly. Your curiosity sharpens, and with a subtle nod, they gesture to a concealed section of the balcony railing that swings open like a hidden door, revealing a narrow spiral staircase descending into darkness. The air here carries the scent of incense and earth, a mixture of herbs long preserved in enchanted jars, mingling with the soft hum of latent magic vibrating through the stone, and you feel an almost magnetic pull to follow, knowing instinctively that whatever awaits below is not casual instruction, but revelation of profound consequence. You descend cautiously, the echoes of music and laughter fading above, replaced by a quiet almost too deliberate in its stillness. A chamber that seems suspended between moments, existing in a threshold where time, memory, and magic converge. At the bottom of the staircase, a door inscribed with intricate runes stands before you, a barrier both literal and symbolic. and the masked figure produces a small silver key that hovers between their fingers, suspended in a field of faint luminescence. "This key will open more than a door," they murmur. "It will unlock truths that have slept for generations, truths that define the blood you carry." You feel a shiver trace your spine, a mixture of anticipation and the weight of responsibility, as if the very essence of Lily Potter's lineage presses upon you, urging careful, deliberate action. Historical scholarship acknowledges the existence of blood oaths within wizarding families, binding individuals not only to their word but to subtle, lingering enchantments that enforce obedience or remembrance. Yet debates persist. Are these oaths ethical, or do they manipulate free will under the guise of loyalty? The door swings open with a quiet sigh, revealing a chamber lit by hundreds of floating orbs that illuminate walls lined with ancient tapestries, each depicting scenes that are both familiar and unsettling, illustrating duels, celebrations, sacrifices, and clandestine meetings, interwoven with symbols and sigils representing loyalty, love, and the consequences of choice. At the center of the room stands a pedestal, and upon it rests a scroll sealed with wax imprinted by a blood-stained hand, the kind of seal used by the most secretive magical families to signify agreements binding across generations. The masked figure steps aside, allowing you to approach, and as you unroll the parchment, the words etched in shimmering ink leap into visibility, revealing a blood oath made long before Lily's birth. A promise of protection and allegiance entwined with a curse that both safeguards and constrains those within the family line. You feel the pulse of power emanating from the scroll, a subtle vibration that synchronizes with your heartbeat, as though the document itself is aware of your presence, assessing your intent and the strength of your resolve. A quirky detail captures your attention. A tiny silver quill hovers above the scroll, dipping itself into ink with a deliberate, almost impatient rhythm, adding marginal notes that are faintly visible, annotations that suggest humor and mischief in the midst of serious binding magic, a reminder that even the most grave enchantments are touched by the peculiar whims of the magical world. The words of the oath describe loyalty, courage, and sacrifice in ways that blur the lines between duty and destiny, love and obligation, yet they are accompanied by warnings encoded in protective charms. Misinterpretation or reckless disregard could activate latent curses, and your mind reels as you consider the implications. The masked figure whispers, "Every decision you make henceforth will echo through the lives of those bound by this oath, shaping events you cannot yet foresee. Consider carefully, for history watches and magic remembers." You lean closer to read further, tracing the calligraphy with your fingertips, and a sensation like warmth and pressure simultaneously grips your hand. The enchantments of the oath responding to your curiosity, measuring your worthiness, your intention, and the alignment of your heart with the values inscribed within. You feel the weight of generations pressing through the air, an invisible current of expectation, legacy, and consequence, and you recognize that the bloodline is not simply inherited magic but a living narrative, actively shaping perception, action, and destiny. Outside the chamber, the distant music of the masked ball continues, a surreal reminder that life and celebration proceed even as hidden truths assert their subtle authority in secluded corners. You realize that the oath contains more than mere obligations. It holds the encoded wisdom of Lily's courage, James's impulsive bravery, and the quiet resilience of generations of Potters, each element intertwined with a subtle curse meant to protect, instruct, and occasionally punish. Scholars have long debated the ethics of inherited enchantments and blood oaths. Do they preserve family values and magical stability, or do they manipulate the free will of descendants in ways that skirt moral boundaries? A faint glow begins to emanate from the scroll as you study it, illuminating symbols you cannot yet decipher, sigils intertwined with letters that pulse faintly, whispering both warning and invitation. The chamber itself seems to lean in, the walls vibrating with anticipation, as if the room is aware of the gravity of your attention, and you understand that the oath is not static. It reacts, responds, and tests, subtly guiding those who seek to understand, shaping the path before them in ways both visible and invisible. The masked figure steps back into the shadows, leaving you with the scroll, the quill, and the weight of centuries of promise. And as your eyes scan the carefully penned words, the concept of loyalty becomes complex, mutable, almost living, intertwined with blood, magic, and choice. You feel the pulse of the curse in the air, a subtle pressure against your chest, and yet, with it, an almost imperceptible invitation to embrace the responsibility, to honor the courage embedded in the lineage, and to confront the consequences of knowing too much. Every heartbeat synchronizes with the invisible rhythm of the blood oath, and you realize that understanding Lily Potter's legacy is not a matter of curiosity alone. It is a matter of participating consciously in a web of magic, history, and human intention that stretches backward through time and forward into futures yet unwritten. You inhale slowly, feeling the weight, the gravity, and the intricate beauty of the oath, knowing that the choices made here, tonight, will resonate in ways seen and unseen, shaping the story of courage, love, and consequence bound by blood, and leaving you to wonder whether legacy is ever truly neutral, or whether every act of insight, defiance, or obedience alters the balance irrevocably, echoing across generations like the quiet, persistent pulse of magic itself. As you leave the chamber of the blood oath, the quill still hovering above the shimmering scroll, you feel a subtle shift in the air, a tangible vibration that pricks at the back of your neck, as though the very house is aware of the knowledge you now carry. The masked figure gestures silently toward a narrow hallway lined with tall mirrors, each reflecting not just your image but a distorted, almost imperceptible aura, highlighting facets of the bloodline's legacy, fears, and unspoken choices. You step cautiously, your own reflection multiplying infinitely, interspersed with flashes of shadowed figures, ghosts of ancestors whose presence is recorded in magical memory, their faces fleeting, their expressions unreadable yet heavy with judgment and expectation. Somewhere beneath the floor, a faint hum resonates, the signature of protective enchantments tied to lineage, a vibration that grows subtly as you approach the center of the hallway, where an alcove opens, shrouded in violet light, revealing a pedestal of black obsidian that seems to drink the ambient glow from the chandeliers above. Atop it rests a relic, a small, crystalline orb encased in twisted iron filigree, faint veins of green magic pulsing through it like captured lightning. The air itself seems to stiffen, charged with latent menace, and you sense immediately that this is no ordinary magical object. It carries the weight of centuries of fear, hope, and protection, a tangible manifestation of the cursed lineage you have been tracing. You reach forward tentatively, and the orb emits a soft, resonant hum, vibrating in your palm as if testing your intentions, assessing your courage, and calibrating your awareness, responding to the pulse of your heartbeat and the quiet rhythm of your breathing. Historical records indicate that objects bound with familial curses were common among prominent wizarding families, serving both as protection and as subtle enforcement of obedience. Though the ethics of such constructs remain fiercely debated among scholars, does such a relic safeguard the living or manipulate them unknowingly for the benefit of the bloodline? The orb pulses again, brighter this time, projecting faint, wraith-like images into the surrounding space. Scenes of Lily as a child learning spells in secret, her laughter interspersed with moments of frustration and fear, glimpses of the pressure and expectation carried invisibly upon her small shoulders. A quirky detail captures your attention. The orb occasionally projects a miniature dancing cat, eyes gleaming, whiskers twitching, an amusing counterpoint to the weighty, almost oppressive magical aura surrounding the artifact, as if the enchantment itself acknowledges that even in danger, whimsy persists. You sense a current running from the orb into the floor, along invisible sigils etched centuries ago, connecting with protective charms that trace a map of lineage, alliances, and hidden vulnerabilities, a network invisible to ordinary sight, yet alive with purpose, energy, and history. The orb's pulsing intensifies, and you feel a creeping chill along your spine as spectral figures materialize, each a fragment of memory tethered to the object. Moments of fear, courage, defiance, and secrecy that defined Lily Potter's life, tangible yet ephemeral, as if the orb contains the essence of her experiences, crystallized into both beauty and peril. Your hand trembles slightly as you hold it, realizing that any misstep, any misalignment of intention, courage, or understanding could awaken dormant enchantments, triggering effects that might extend far beyond this room, rippling through the magical world in unpredictable ways. The masked figure's voice breaks the silence, low and deliberate. It is not enough to witness. You must perceive, understand, and choose how to interact. The orb tests the purity of your purpose. It reveals what you carry in your heart, for the bloodline binds its magic to intent. You notice subtle glyphs shimmering faintly across the iron encasement, protective symbols that adjust their configuration as your grip tightens, responding to both confidence and hesitation, illustrating a principle that magical ethicists have long debated, whether intent can influence enchantments or whether magic operates independently of human morality. The orb projects another image, a shadowy scene in which Lily faces a choice, her wand raised, confronted by a spectral adversary representing fear, doubt, and inherited responsibility. The decision she makes here, captured and preserved, resonates through the orb's subtle vibrations, reminding you that the bloodline's history is not just lived, but encoded, a living archive of choices, courage, and consequence. You inhale, letting the layered scents of ink, old wood, and faint ozone fill your senses, grounding yourself as you absorb the scene, understanding that this is more than artifact, more than memory. It is a living conduit of lineage, a nexus where fear, love, courage, and the consequences of choices converge into tangible form. You wonder how many generations have touched it, whispered to it, or feared it, and whether its current state reflects centuries of vigilance, defiance, or compliance. Scholars debate whether such objects act merely as repositories or whether they actively influence the behavior of those who interact with them, subtly nudging decisions, amplifying fears, or testing loyalty. The orb hums again, warmer now, the projections of Lily's courage shimmering brighter, shadows fading, and you feel an almost seductive pull to explore deeper, to probe the edges of magic and history bound within it, knowing fully that understanding carries inherent risk. You place the orb carefully back on the pedestal, but the sensation lingers. The sense that the room, the building, and the very air around you are watching, measuring, and evaluating your comprehension, courage, and respect for what has been entrusted to you. Beyond the protective circle, faint shadows twist and curl along the walls, hints of unspoken magic that ripple with subtle, deliberate intent, reminding you that in dealing with relics of cursed bloodlines, every action matters, every glance and gesture is recorded in invisible, enduring memory, and every choice will ripple outward, affecting not just your understanding, but the delicate balance of power, protection, and peril woven through the Potter lineage. The masked figure steps closer again, voice carrying a hint of gravitas. The bloodline is a guide, not a jailer. The relic is a test, not a threat if you perceive wisely. But missteps awaken what sleeps. You feel the pulse of the orb echoing against your own heartbeat, and in that moment, understand fully the intertwined nature of courage, inheritance, and responsibility. That the Potter bloodline carries both the potential for extraordinary courage and the shadow of lingering fear, and that facing the relic and the fears it embodies is not merely a challenge. It is a necessary step in unraveling the legacy that binds magic, choice, and history into a single living continuum. As you step back from the pedestal, the ambient glow of the room softens, leaving only faint traces of light and vibration, a whisper of what has been revealed, and you feel a quiet, resolute certainty. The bloodline, the cursed heritage, and the relic's memory will continue to shape not only Lily Potter's story, but the unfolding narrative you are now inextricably part of, a web of history, courage, and magic that cannot be ignored or forgotten. The air feels charged as you step away from the obsidian pedestal, the soft hum of the cursed relic lingering in your senses like a heartbeat that refuses to quiet, and you realize that the journey through the house, the masked ball, the hidden library, and the blood oath has led you here, to a nexus where the full weight of Lily Potter's legacy presses invisibly upon you, a web of power, choice, and consequence spanning generations, both illuminated and shadowed by courage and fear. The masked figure that has guided you appears again, emerging from the interplay of shadows and golden light, stepping close enough that the faint shimmer of protective enchantments along their robes brushes against your perception, a delicate vibration that seems to connect your pulse to theirs. Everything you have seen, touched, and felt tonight converges here, they murmur, voice low, resonant, carrying the gravity of centuries. The blood you follow, the oaths you have witnessed, the powers you have glimpsed, all lead to a moment of choice. One misstep, one hesitation, and the cycle you seek to break could tighten its grip instead. You nod, feeling both the weight and the thrill of responsibility, knowing that every lesson, every observation, every subtle whisper of magic you have absorbed up to this point has been preparation for this pivotal moment. The room stretches before you, walls fading into shadows, ceiling dissolving into the starry expanse of night, as if the house itself has become a liminal space between reality and the echoing tapestry of magic, history, and human intention. You can see faint, ghostly silhouettes, ancestors, guardians, and the residual echoes of Lily herself, floating just beyond the veil of perception, their eyes observing, judging, and perhaps, in some intangible way, guiding your actions. In the center of this space lies a small, circular platform, etched with intricate sigils and protective glyphs that shimmer faintly, casting pale light across the surrounding darkness. And at its heart, a mirror-like surface ripples as if liquid, reflecting not your physical image, but a tapestry of potential choices, consequences, and paths woven from the intricate threads of lineage, courage, and magic. You step forward, each footfall resonating across the invisible plane, and the air vibrates with latent energy, responding to the rhythm of your heartbeat, to the cadence of your breathing, and to the intention you carry in your mind. The masked figure gestures toward the platform, and you realize that to engage fully with the legacy, you must step onto it, confront the reflected possibilities, and reconcile the intertwined threads of inheritance and personal choice. Historical records acknowledge that powerful bloodlines often carry not only inherited magic but subtle, binding consequences. Yet scholars debate whether free will can ever truly disentangle itself from destiny, a question that hovers in the very air around you as you prepare to step forward. You inhale deeply, feeling the scent of ozone, candle smoke, and faint rosewater, grounding yourself. And as you do, the mirror-like surface responds, shimmering more vividly, displaying fleeting images of triumph, tragedy, and quiet courage across generations of the Potter family, each scenario unfolding in rapid succession, each echoing choices made, sacrifices endured, and courage manifested in moments both great and subtle. You sense the pull of the cursed bloodline, a gravitational force that tugs at both your mind and spirit, revealing the delicate balance between inheritance and agency, prompting reflection on the open scholarly debate. Can knowledge of lineage empower without constraining, or does the awareness of inherited responsibility inevitably shape action in ways both overt and subtle? A subtle glow emanates from the platform's edge, tracing faint, dancing glyphs across the floor, each representing a moral, ethical, or magical principle embedded within the family's history, and you realize that the convergence of these principles is what forms the cycle you now stand poised to either perpetuate or break. With tentative steps, you ascend onto the platform, feeling the faint hum of magic coursing through your body, connecting pulse, intention, and resolve to the living memory of Lily Potter's courage, resilience, and quiet brilliance. The mirror surface ripples, and you see reflections of your own choices superimposed over ancestral echoes, a visual dialogue of past, present, and potential futures that seems to question your intent. Will you act with the integrity and wisdom encoded in the bloodline? Or will fear and hesitation allow the cursed patterns to persist? The masked figure steps back, silent now, their presence a stabilizing anchor, and you understand that while guidance has been provided, the decision is yours alone. The chamber responds to your contemplation, faint whispers weaving through the air, speaking of love, loyalty, and the subtle responsibilities inherited through blood and choice, reminding you of Lily's quiet heroism, James' boldness, and the sacrifices of countless unseen ancestors, all converging into a single, pulsating moment. The orb from the previous chamber appears on a nearby pedestal, its soft green glow harmonizing with the sigils beneath your feet, its resonance echoing the latent magic that has guided you here, a constant reminder that courage, understanding, and integrity are inseparable in the exercise of agency within inherited magic. You extend your hands, letting your fingers hover over the shimmering mirror, feeling the vibrations of past decisions, the pulse of potential futures, and the delicate threads of consequence. As you do, a vision crystallizes. You see the cursed bloodline not as a prison, but as a living, breathing tapestry, its threads vibrant with opportunity, challenge, and responsibility. The reflections in the mirror shift subtly, offering glimpses of outcomes shaped by your choices, and a faint smile tugs at your lips as you recognize the power of intention. Courage applied thoughtfully can reshape even the most persistent patterns, and awareness can illuminate paths once hidden by fear and tradition. You take a deep breath and step fully onto the center, feeling the platform respond, the glyphs glowing brighter, and the whispers of ancestors crescendo, not as judgment but as guidance, lending strength and clarity to your resolve. The energy envelops you, a gentle but insistent force, reminding you that breaking the cycle is not an act of defiance, but one of understanding. Recognizing the interplay of courage, fear, love, and choice, and choosing consciously how to carry the legacy forward. The visions intensify, revealing potentialities that span both triumph and tragedy, showing the delicate balance between light and shadow inherent in the Potter lineage, and you feel a profound sense of responsibility, tempered by empowerment, knowing that your engagement here is not just observation, but active participation in the living continuum of history, magic, and human courage. The whispers soften, the glow stabilizes, and you feel a quiet resonance settle within, a confirmation that the cycle can indeed be altered, not erased, not denied, but acknowledged, understood, and guided toward outcomes shaped by wisdom, integrity, and the enduring power of choice. In that moment, standing on the platform, immersed in the pulsating weave of bloodline, magic, and consequence, you realize the journey has been both perilous and enlightening, each step preparing you to honor, challenge, and transcend the patterns embedded in Lily Potter's cursed blood, and a calm certainty settles over you. The culmination of centuries of legacy converging into the tangible, living power of conscious action, choice, and courage, a testament that the cycle, while persistent, is not immutable, and that understanding and intention can illuminate even the darkest, most intricate threads of history and inheritance. The energy around you begins to settle, the pulsing glow of magic softening to a gentle, steady rhythm, and you feel the tension of the night ease from your shoulders, leaving a quiet warmth that seeps into your bones. The whispers of ancestors fade to a soft murmur, like wind through distant trees, carrying with them faint echoes of courage, laughter, and wisdom that have threaded through generations, now leaving space for your own presence to resonate calmly alongside them. You step off the platform, the floor solid beneath your feet, and the chamber feels less imposing, more like a place of reflection than trial, the shadows now gentle companions rather than harbingers of dread. The masked ball, the library, the blood oath, the cursed relic, all of it seems to exhale, releasing tension into the night, leaving you with the quiet hum of understanding, of connection to a lineage both luminous and complicated, full of triumph and flaw. You breathe slowly, savoring the mingling scents of rosewater, candle smoke, and faint ozone that linger in the air, letting the sensory tapestry of the evening ground you, reminding you that magic, history, and courage are intertwined in ways both delicate and enduring. The light from the chandeliers and floating orbs softens to a pale glow, shimmering against the walls, casting long, warm shadows that stretch like gentle fingers across the floor, reassuring, steady, and familiar. You close your eyes briefly, listening to the faint creak of floorboards and the distant rustle of leaves outside, feeling a soft pulse of calm settle over your mind, a reminder that even amidst curses and shadows, understanding and intention can illuminate paths once hidden. Slowly, deliberately, you exhale, letting the night's revelations drift gently around you, like a whispering tide, and with that quiet assurance, you realize that the story of Lily Potter's cursed bloodline, with all its trials and legacies, now rests in part with you, observed, respected, and understood, leaving you calm, grounded, and ready to carry forward the lessons and courage the night has offered.